mylocalcustomers.com. That's mylocalcustomers.com. When you hear this,
they've got him again,
and this,
he scored,
and this,
oh boy, what a move by Embiid!
You think of us. We are sports. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Welcome back from the weekend. Game Night is back in your life. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Monday night on 97.3 ESPN. Phillies win a series against the Mets for the first time in a couple of years. Plus, Sixers, NBA offseason heating up. We will dig deeper into the Sixers and the NBA offseason. Bryan Toporek will join us coming up from the NBA podcast, Forbes Sports NBA writer, also a writer for Liberty Ballers. Also, don't forget, we have one more chance for you to qualify this hour. Of course, that is for the Phillies trip contest. We just got Jeff in Summers Point and Chris in Summers Point just qualified for the contest, and you could be next when the sounder goes off coming up in about 15 minutes from now, so stay tuned for that. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. That is the text board. Also, your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. So we'll get to you guys throughout the show. I want to start with the Phillies before we get to the NBA and Sixers conversation, because the Phillies this weekend did something that I think a lot of people are downplaying. Because here's what's happening. On the flip side of the coin, in New York radio, people are selling on the Mets. They are bailing on the team. They're saying this team is cooked. They're DOA. But yet there are Philly fans who are still unhappy that the Phillies beat the Mets this weekend. I don't understand why some people just need to be miserable their entire lives. Look, I'm a realist. I don't believe in being hyper positive or hyper negative. I believe in just bringing it to you guys what I see, what I hear as things are. Yeah, the Phillies lost 2 games to the Braves, but they won 2 out of 3 against the Mets. Why can't we be happy about that? Why can't we give them credit that they took advantage of the Mets' mistakes and they beat one of the Mets' best pitchers in Senga? Why does it always have to be, man, this team didn't do this, man, this team didn't do that? Let me tell you what the Phillies are doing. The Phillies are going out there and doing, in many ways, what they did last year. This was a team last year that got hot in the month of June. This year, 15-7. I am not going to sit here and be the guy who is completely miserable all the time because my baseball team isn't winning the way I want them to win. I can't do that. I'm not going to be that guy. You know, there was someone who texted Mike Gill on the Sports Bash today, and they said, well, Harper's not hitting enough home runs. Yet, I've had to hear people complain about how Schwarber's only hitting home runs, and he's not getting on base. You know, Bryce Harper's hitting almost 300 this year. But hey, he's not hitting home runs, so he stinks. Yeah, Bryce Harper has a .390 on base percentage. He's batting around .290 almost the entire season. But he's not hitting enough home runs. Kyle Schwarber this year has 20 home runs. He led the National League in home runs hit last year. He almost won the home run derby last year. But guess what? Doesn't matter because his on-base percentage isn't good enough for people. The guy wins the home run derby. The guy is fourth in the National League in home runs. But let's complain about his on-base percentage. You sound like somebody who got handed a bag of money and you're complaining how too heavy it is. Why can't we just celebrate the fact that the Phillies won the weekend? Look, if you want to criticize the fact that this team is inconsistent, we can do that. If you want to talk about how Phillies offense has been inconsistent all year, I can do that. But I'm not going to sit here and trash these players. I'm going to give these guys credit for finding ways to win. I'm going to give these guys credit for saying, hey, when we had to play the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, we took 3 out of 4 against the Diamondbacks, 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. So we handled our business against 2 of the best teams in the National League. 2 teams that are very likely going to be in the postseason. Then you won 2 out of 3 against the Mets. And the Mets were a team that you struggled immensely against last year. And you beat them 2 out of 3. You got your first 2 wins against the Mets all year. I am not going to downplay that. I am not going to diminish that. Look, we are at a point in the season where the only team that has manhandled the Philadelphia Phillies were the Texas Rangers. And that was the first weekend of the year with no Bryce Harper, with Real Muto and Trey Turner and Schwarber coming off of the World Baseball Classic, with the first 3 games of the season where everyone is getting used to the pitch clock. If you take out that series, if you said we won 2 of those 3 games, your record is 42-35. And if your record is 42-35, you know what that would mean for the Phillies in the postseason standings? If they had 2 more wins, they would be a game behind the Dodgers for the final wild card spot. If they would have 2 more wins, they would be 8 games behind the Braves instead of 10. Frankly, we would have split with the Braves. We'd be 7 behind the Braves, theoretically. Look, I'm not saying the team doesn't have problems. They got to make at least 2 trades at the deadline, in my opinion. The first trade has to be another bat. They need more offense to give a little depth to a team that is so hyper dependent on 4 players. It's kind of embarrassing. It's kind of embarrassing that, the Phillies are so hyper dependent and so needy of Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber, and Nick Castellanos. They are so desperate for those guys to be successful, they have no balance to their team in terms of offense. So they need another bat to at least get another body in the rotation of guys to hope somebody, is able to stabilize things when they had the left-right matchups. And the second issue is you still need some pitching depth because at the end of the day, just because the Phillies are the best team in the National League in the month of June in ERA doesn't mean they're going to be like that the rest of the year. I can't promise you, listening to me on 97.3 ESPN FM, or you're tuning in on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. First of all, thank you for being here. Second of all, I can't promise any of you that Wheeler, Nola, Walker, and Suarez are going to do what they're doing this month the entire year. I'm willing to say that you're probably going to get that the rest of the year. Some form of this. I don't think that Taijuan Walker is going to be this scolding hot the rest of the year. I mean, Walker is talented, so I'm not going to act like it's impossible that he pitches well for the entire year. But pitching well and pitching at an elite level are two different things. Look, Walker for his career has a 3.91 ERA. So for his career, let's just say that ERA is a little inflated. Let's say that maybe he had a bad year here or there, right? Maybe let's say that for his career, he's giving up 3.5 runs a game for his career. Well, let me tell you what he's done in the month of June. In the month of June, Taijuan Walker has a 1.5 ERA. Taijuan Walker has allowed 5 runs in 5 starts. Walker has a batting average against of 154 in the month of June. Before the month of June, the entire year before that, he had a 5.57 ERA. So I'm going to think it's safe to assume that he's somewhere between a 5 ERA and a 1.5 ERA. So that's why I think you probably need to get at least one more arm out there. But you're not going to get any of those deals done until next month. Around this time next month, we'll have a better idea of who may or may not be available. But until then, I think you got to count the wins where you can get them. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973. A couple of you guys messaging in already. George in Summers Point chimes in and says, hey, Josh, after the weekend, I'm fairly confident the Phillies will be one of the wild card spots in the National League this year. Who do you see them battling with to get into the postseason as this year's wild card? Jeff in Summers Point. Well, Jeff, appreciate you chiming in. Well, I mentioned that there are 3 games behind the Dodgers right now. If you had to boil it down, look, I don't know I think the Brewers are going to fall apart. I think the Brewers have already proven they're just not a great baseball team. And without Woodruff, they're showing that they lack the pitching depth. So I think the Phillies will overtake them, even though they and Milwaukee have the same record right now in the season. The team the Phillies will play the next 3 games in Chicago, the Cubs, they're 2.5 games behind the Phillies. All you got to do is win 2 out of 3 against the Cubs, and you have a chance to maybe push them further in the list. I am still perplexed why the Padres are struggling this much to win games. It felt like half the year their offense couldn't hit runners in with scoring position. That's the reason why they're 4 games under 500. But they've been a lot better recently. Their offense has finally picked itself up a little bit. If you're the Phillies, the 2 teams you're looking at ahead of you to say we need one of them to stumble down the stretch is either the Giants or the Marlins. You either have to say the Marlins don't have a great offense and eventually their pitching staff is not going to stay as hot as they are, or you're saying to the Giants don't have the staying power pitching-wise that you do, and that's what you're going to overtake. So those are the teams you're dealing with. You're dealing with the Brewers, the Giants, the Marlins, and the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers will be in it all the way to the end. The NL West is extremely competitive, so they'll probably, bite at each other's heels all the way to the finish line. And the Marlins, you have to question how long are they going to be able to play with an offense that realistically the only team that has scored fewer runs this year than them, who has an above 500 record in the National League, is the Brewers. Their offense is not very good. All right, coming up a little bit later in the hour, Jeff in Ocean City. I'll get to you guys as well as I believe it's Steve and Ventnor chiming in as well. I'll get to you guys' messages coming up in a little bit later this hour. But right now, we're going to hit the break, and coming up on the other side, James Harden, Sixers, and more. Bryan Toporek will give us the latest here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. I'm Josh Hennig, hanging out with you on a Monday night here on the Power Hour known as Game Night.
You haven't downloaded the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app? Well, go get it now to follow all the Philly sports teams at 97.3ESPN.com. Powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
With GMF financing to qualify buyers excludes Corvette. Everybody knows there's no beating Bennett because we sell new Chevys at true GM supplier employee prices. Unlike the other guys, Bennett doesn't sell at MSRP, and they certainly never sell over MSRP. Because at Bennett, we take pride being known as the only area dealer to sell at the true GM supplier employee price. Plus, Bennett also gives you all the rebates. Not one or the other. Bennett gives you both. There's no beating Bennett. Plus, Bennett's got financing as low as 1.9%. Looking for used? Bennett pays a minimum $8,000 for any trade towards any pre-owned in stock. I know you're thinking Bennett will never give me $8,000 for my old clunker. Try us. Bennett doesn't care if it's all dented and rusty. We don't even care if it runs. Just get it here for at least $8,000. A lot more if it's in my shape. And Bennett's non-commissioned sales team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
At the Home Depot, we have laundry appliances that just fit. From the space you have, to the features you want, to the savings you need. Like a new GE Profile Ultra-Fast Combo laundry machine that can wash and dry a large load in about 2 hours, without you ever having to transfer the load over. Get special buy savings like the GE Profile Ultra-Fast Combo laundry machine, plus an extra $100 off select laundry sets in-store and online at the Home Depot.
These are emails filling your employees' inboxes, downloads beaming from device to device, and any one of them could be a cyber attack. Is it possible to keep your small business safe? It is with Comcast Business Security Edge. It helps keep your connected devices protected, and you can monitor threat activity in real time. So this security threat is the last thing you need to worry about. With Comcast Business, advanced security isn't just possible, it's happening.
Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for $69.99 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Plus, ask how to get up to a $500 prepaid card with a qualifying bundle. Call or go online to learn more. Offer ends 7/23/2023. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and automatic payments. New 100 megabits per second internet and Security Edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and other fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply.
Hey, you know what I don't get? Why is that company always telling you to just do what? What is it? To just look like everybody else? Or maybe just pay way too much for your shoes? Well, at Skechers, we know what we want you to do. Just slip in. That's right, just slip in to new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Why? Because slip-ins are the easiest, most comfortable shoes ever. You don't have to bend down to put them on. You don't even have to touch them. Find slip-ins for the whole family at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Hey, it's me, Ruthie, from Total Wine & More. Our new lower prices on hundreds of wines are here to stay. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More. Drink responsibly, be 21.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Why pay retail or over MSRP for a new vehicle? Get to Matt Blatt Nissan and take $9,000 off any 2023 Nissan Armada, Harrier, or Titan in stock. Or put $0 down, pay 0% financing, and make 0 payments for 90 days on every Matt Blatt Nissan Rogue in stock. Plus, if you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, AJ the Trade Man can get you released, no matter the make, model, or mileage. Then drive home in your new Nissan Rogue with 0 down and 0% financing, or 0 payments for 90 days on every Nissan Rogue for 36 months, even 0% for 60 months. And of course, the Matt Blatt Nissan Peace of Mind 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Only at MattBlattNissan.com. On approved Tier 1 credit through NEMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $589 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 7/5/2023. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
You're listening to Game Night with on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
6:22 on a Monday night. Don't forget, still to come in about 30 minutes from now, your next opportunity to qualify for another great contest being hosted by the Sports Bash. Listen, Philly Sports Trips is taking Philly fans on a trip to Pittsburgh. And, of course, you can win to go with Mike Gill and the team out there to Pittsburgh. You see the Phillies play at PNC Park. All you got to do is be callers 6 and 7 coming up at 6:55 tonight. So every hour on the Sports Bash, and then at the end of game night each day, all this week, all next week, we will be giving you opportunities to qualify to go to a Phillies game with Phillies Sports Trips. But all you have to do is be callers 6 and 7 at 609-573-3776 coming up in about 30 minutes from now. And then you must be present to win at Yuri's in Wildwood on Friday, July 14th, when the Sports Bash Mike Gill broadcasting live from 2 to 6 p.m. We'll catch up with Bryan Toporek in just a few minutes here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. But as promised, we want you guys' thoughts and comments on the text board, 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. As we wait for Bryan, we'll check in on the text board. Jeff in Ocean City chimes in. This is Josh. You are correct. Baseball is a marathon, not a sprint. I feel the Phillies will figure things out, and we will be playing our best baseball in September. That's Jeff in Ocean City. Jeff, guess what? It's not even a guarantee you're going to play your best baseball in into September because of the fact that, guess what? Last year, your September didn't go so well. The Phillies got in the postseason last year because they played so good in June, July, and August that they were able to afford stumbling their way to the finish line in September. So I don't even know if you can even count on this team, Jeff in Ocean City, being that good in September. You might be in a position where you have to lean a little more on what they do this month, next month, and August. You're right. Baseball is a very long season. You're right. Yes, baseball has a tendency to drag on, and there will be lulls in the season. But I think that if this team has to make a move at the deadline, beef up their team a little bit so they can recalibrate, hit that reset button, and then they'll be able to kind of move forward. I think that's what it comes down to. They need help. And I think part of getting that help is the fact that they realize, look, we just got to stay above water for another month. The Phillies are 15 and 7 this month, right? They have to maintain this level of production and success for the next month. So I need another 15-7 kind of month in July. Then you get to the deadline. Then you can kind of assess what is out there, what isn't out there, and then figure it out from there. I think that's part of what the Phillies' perspective, what their attitude needs to be. Steven Ventnor chimes in at 609-403-0973. He says, how about we trade Simon Muzziotti, Griff McGarry, and Francisco Marias for Paul Goldschmidt and Jordan Hicks? Who says no? I think the Cardinals say no. I think that's the problem with that trade. There's two huge problems with that trade. Number one, Paul Goldschmidt won the MVP last year. Are you telling me that Muzziotti, McGarry, and Morales are enough for a defending league MVP? I don't think that's enough for Goldschmidt, honestly, if you're the Cardinals, being honest. I think Muzziotti is definitely getting traded. I think you're on the right track with him. I think the problem with McGarry is, do other organizations view Griff McGarry the way the Phillies do? I think that's the biggest problem because, McGarry is the number 3 prospect in the Phillies system. But I don't know if that means he is that highly regarded by other teams. You look at what he has done this year. He has a 4.07 ERA between Reading and Clearwater in eight starts. Okay. That doesn't scream, man, look at this prospect. That screams, this guy needs some work. Now, I do like his strikeouts to inning ratio. I do like the fact that he's got 31 strikeouts at 24 and a third innings. I like the idea that last year he had 130 strikeouts and 87 in the third innings. But he also had a 3.92 ERA last season, 27 games pitched, 19 starts. So McGarry definitely has stuff. The question is, how long until he puts it all together, and will he put it all together? Because he's already 24 years old. If you're a team like the Cardinals, do you look at McGarry and say, that guy is going to be one of our next guys? Do you feel like he's put up enough of a resume at double and triple A and all the different levels for you to rationalize that move? Muzziotti is going to be the ultimate, hey, team needs an extra outfielder, an extra bat. Let's get Muzziotti, bring him up to the majors and see what he's got, because he's hitting so well at AAA. And are you telling me that a team like the Cardinals, that if they are selling at the deadline, are going to sell a 26-year-old? That's how old Jordan Hicks is. Jordan Hicks is 26 years old. He's a young pitcher with a lot of upside. And I understand that the last 2 years, he has not been consistent. He has not been everything you want him to be. But I think Hicks has shown a great deal of growth when it comes to his abilities. I think that, this is a guy, remember, he was injured. He had to come back from injury. And last year he had a down year. This year is better than last year, especially in the strikeout to innings department, especially in, the batting average against. His walks plus hits per 9 innings are rough, but I don't think the Cardinals letting him go. And we'll talk to Bryan Toporek about this, about basketball, because in the NBA, everybody loves the idea of a team making a trade, but 2 teams need to make a deal, as we know. As Bryan Toporek from the NBA podcast, Forbes Sports NBA writer and contributor for Liberty Ballers, joins us right now on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Bryan, welcome back. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So before we get to the nitty-gritty, I do want to bring you up at that point I was bringing up. people love to come up with trade ideas, right? People love to be the guy who says, I got a trade idea. I got this. But it's like, it takes two to tango. Everyone likes the idea of, hey, let's sign and trade James Harden. Hey, let's trade Maxey for Lillard. But I don't know what Portland thinks of Maxey. Portland's drafted like 15 point guards in the last few years. Like, I don't know if they even care to have Maxey on their team.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially as we've seen over the past week and a half, starting with the Bradley Beal trade, the John Collins trade today, there are going to be a lot of trades this offseason that if you don't follow the NBA closely, you're going to be like, wait, they got this player for how much? Like, I mean, the Atlanta Hawks effectively gave John Collins away for free. They got Rudy Gay and a second-round pick. And it's because there's this new collective bargaining agreement going into effect on Saturday. It punishes the teams with the higher payrolls in the NBA. So a lot of teams are going to be trying to cut costs and cut salaries, especially long-term deals. So, it's even more difficult than usual to come up with what's a reasonable trade package, because the honest answer is none of us really know in the new CBA. Like we've seen, Marcus Smart fetched 2 first-round picks and Kristaps Porzingis. So, that gives hope that the market isn't totally out of whack. But, Bradley Beal not getting a single first-round pick. Chris Paul being traded for Jordan Poole and a first-round pick. Like, there are just going to be a lot of these financially motivated moves this summer.
How does Tobias Harris fit or not fit into a potentially financially motivated move?
Yeah, it's a good question after this weekend. So, I mean, Tobias, I would say most likely had negative or neutral trade value over the last couple of years. Like, I think it would have cost the Sixers a pick or multiple picks or other assets to get off of his contract. I think with this new dynamic in play and with Tobias going into the final year of his contract, is $39.3 million, the biggest expiring contract realistically on the market. Klay Thompson is bigger, but I don't think the Warriors are going to trade him. So again, these teams that are looking to trade, shed long-term multi-year salaries could be looking at Tobias as a lifeline. Like, hey, this comes off the books next summer, and we suddenly have, however much we traded out, like we're just clearing that off our books. Like maybe we can become players in free agency, or, do this thing which a lot of these rebuilding teams are doing where, you can just absorb a John Collins for free, basically. So I actually think Tobias probably does have positive trade value at the moment. But I can understand the Sixers' reluctance to moving him because there's no real rush. They can do it anytime between now and the February trade deadline. And I think it makes, some amount of sense to wait and see how these free agency dominoes fall from their perspective, see if they get James Harden back, see what happens with George Niang, Jalen McDaniels, since they are all going to play the 3-4 for Philly. But then some of these other teams, like whichever team misses out on Kyle Kuzma, Draymond Green, Chris Middleton, even a Dylan Brooks, like someone's going to be left, empty-handed by the second week of July. And at that point, do they, whichever team needs a power forward, do they circle back to Philly and say, all right, like now we know this option is off the table. Let's turn back and see if we can get a deal done.
Bryan, is part of the key to everything we're going to see is a waiting game, that this is not going to all happen immediately, that, yeah, James Harden needs to make a decision on his player option Thursday night, but it doesn't mean we're going to have an answer on James Harden by Friday afternoon. Like, how much of this Harden, Harris, Sixers, Kyrie Irving, all these moving, like this, all of this stuff, we could be talking and listening to rumors and reports about this until next Friday, right?
It's possible. I mean, I think years ago, that's kind of how it was done, where, these guys would like take official meetings, and like LeBron didn't decide in 2014 until July 11th. We haven't really seen that as much in recent years. Like, it's usually pretty quick. So I would imagine we're getting a resolution one way or the other on Harden by the end of the weekend. That's not sourced information. That's just an educated guess. Part of that is Houston has, however, $60, $65 million of cap space, depending on whose projections you're citing. But, they have other ideas in mind. If it's not James Harden, they're going to want to say, okay, we're pivoting to Fred VanVleet. We're pivoting to Brook Lopez. We're pivoting to Dylan Brooks. Like, we have, another option here, but we need to pursue this quickly. They can't waste 5 days waiting for James Harden. And then, Fred VanVleet re-signs with Toronto, Milwaukee re-signs Brook Lopez. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, if we don't get James Harden, now we have to go to plan C or plan D. So I think, these teams talk with players. Clearly, we found that out the hard way last year when the Sixers got talked to second-round picks ahead of free agency, or because of what they were doing ahead of free agency. So teams and players are clandestinely talking right now, or teams and agents are clandestinely talking. I think, based on kind of the tenor of reports that have come out in recent weeks, it seems like the Sixers are increasingly optimistic about their chances of re-signing Harden. It seems like the Rockets are starting to be ready to kind of pivot to that plan B, which seems to be Fred VanVleet and Brook Lopez and Dylan Brooks.
So Bryan Toporek, you can catch him on the NBA podcast. Like, subscribe, download wherever you get your podcasts. I'll check out his work with Forbes Sports covering the NBA and the Sixers for Liberty Ballers, joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Bryan, with all that being said, you mentioned Harden. Let's dig deeper into him for a moment. Obviously I've been saying this, and I feel like there are other people who say this, and maybe they say it maybe better than I do. So maybe I come off as an abrasive jerk when I say it. But, I just feel like nobody knows what Harden really wants. Nobody really knows what's important to this guy, what's not important to him. And I think it's a big part of this conversation. To me, a huge part of this conversation is James Harden. I use the example of LeBron James. Every time LeBron made a move, we knew why he was making the move, right? When Kevin Durant left OKC and left Golden State, we knew what was going on, right? And there's why did AD want out of New Orleans, right? Why did they force that trade? There's a whole list of these, why did Kyrie do the things we think he's nuts sometimes, but we know why he does what he does. James Harden is like an enigma wrapped in a paradox that's being investigated by like scientists somewhere because like the guy is just like this conflict of different thoughts going on. And I don't actually know if Harden knows what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a logical fallacy of, all right, he's 34, he wants to win a championship, and he wants to go back to a Rockets team that has won 57 games in the last 3 years combined. The Sixers won 54 this past season alone. So if he is prioritizing a championship, there is not a contest between Philly and Houston. Now, you could argue Houston is set up much better long-term than Philly, and I would not argue against that, especially after the draft night haul they just had. They have a ton of young players. They have all these Brooklyn picks from the Harden trade. Like they could be players in, $60 million in free agency. Like they signed a Fred VanVleet, they signed a James Harden, they signed Dylan Brooks, they signed Brook Lopez. Like they could be in that conversation, but I think by the time, they're really championship contenders, it will be James Harden's in the twilight of his career. So if he is prioritizing a championship, he stays in Philly. If he is prioritizing money, we don't know which team is going to offer more money. It seems like Houston is getting a little nervous. I think that is part of this, this tonal shift or this sentiment shift of, the Sixers are increasingly optimistic about re-signing Harden. I'm guessing Houston has sent some back channel messages like, yeah, we're not going to give you the 4-year max or a 4-year near max that you might be hoping for. Like, there have been some reports, they might do a big money 2-year deal, something like that. But if he wants longer term security, Philly might have an advantage there. But there's also, James Harden is beloved in Houston and, was the franchise icon for almost a decade and has family members there, is comfortable there. Like, we can't underrate just, off court stuff. And it sounds like we're talking about, his late night partying and whatever, but I've made the decision to move back closer to home because I want to be near family. So I can't begrudge a guy for doing the same thing, especially as he gets into his mid-30s.
Bryan, when you think about the other side of this is it about the money or is it about the winning? I mean, I feel like that we're running out of teams for Harden to land 2. And I think that's part of the problem with this conversation. Like, even if Kyrie doesn't go back to Dallas, I don't know how much money Dallas really has to spend on a guy like Harden. People were talking about Phoenix. Well, they landed Bradley Beal. Harden's definitely not going to Miami. I mean, him and Pat Riley is like mixing oil and water. Absolutely. There's too many guards in Atlanta, unless you're going to trade Trae Young or DeJounte Murray. So it feels like there's no clear place but the Sixers for Harden to go to. And doesn't that mean that the Sixers have all the advantage in the negotiation?
Yeah, I think especially if Houston pivots, like if they sign Fred VanVleet before Harden decides, that's sending enough of a message of like, all right, well, sure, where else are you going to go? We can negotiate a sign and trade potentially, and that would open up some additional avenues, but not as many as he would hope for. And again, like the teams that are close enough to contention or the teams that are among the title favorites next year won't be able to sign and trade for him because they all have too much money on their books, and you can't be over a certain threshold. It's going to be 172 million if you sign and trade for someone. So that immediately takes a number of teams off the table. So I mean, it's felt like a 2-team race between Houston and Philly for the last 6 months. I think what we're hearing, I forget who it was. I think Sam Amick of The Athletic had the report today where it's, Harden is still seriously considering Houston, which, might be true. I'm not saying it's not, but it also feels like maybe this is his last ditch effort to, try to drive up the price on the Sixers a little bit more.
Bryan, before I let you go, I want to thank you for your television recommendation last week. I am thoroughly enjoying Primo on Freevee. I got to tell you, what I love about it is 2 things. One, I've known a lot of people who are like the characters on the show over the years. I've been around enough Hispanic people that I literally feel like I'm watching scenarios I've seen play out before, but like in a more funny way, which makes it even more enjoyable. And 2, I love how it's like a 90s style like sitcom where it's like, they bleep out the curse words, like it's Malcolm in the Middle or something, or like they blur out things like it's Home Improvement. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. The only problem I have with it is it's only 1 season. I need more of this show. We got you back, Bryan. I think you froze there for a minute.
Yep, I briefly lost power, which is
Oh my goodness.
A storm is coming through in the last like 20 minutes. It's been promised all day. So yeah, knock on wood, it's back on for now, but we're hot spotting, so we're all good either way.
I was just saying that the show reminds me of a 90s sitcom. It's got all like the goofiness, but like anyone can watch this show, and as long as they're like over the age of 30, they can enjoy it basically.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, the character development is fantastic, which you would expect from any show that Mike Schur is involved in. He did Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place. And Shea Serrano is, one of the most enjoyable people on Twitter, especially over the last 10 years, did some great work for The Ringer, has written a couple excellent books as well. So the combination of those two, it felt like you just couldn't go wrong. And, thankfully it turned out great. So yeah, strongly recommend to anyone who has not checked it out yet.
Yeah. Primo on Freevee. I'm enjoying it. The only problem is only 1 season right now. I need more of this stuff.
We got to tell people about it. That's what Shea has been saying, we spread the word, and then we'll get a second season, hopefully.
Follow Bryan on Twitter at Toporek. Check out the NBA podcast, all of his work with Liberty Ballers and Forbes Sports. All right, Bryan, go check on your family. Make sure everybody's still alive, okay?
Thank you, Josh. And have a great July 4th, everyone. Enjoy the fireworks this weekend, the free agent fireworks. Hopefully it's not too busy in Sixers land.
Yeah, and don't shoot off any fireworks yourself. Please,
That's
please
right.
party responsibly.
That's right.
Take care, Bryan.
All right, you too, Josh.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll wrap up the show coming up other side. Plus, don't forget, coming up in about less than 10 minutes from now, your final opportunity to qualify for the Phillies trip contest. Today, you'll have 5 more chances tomorrow, but this hour, your last chance today to qualify for the Phillies sports trip Pittsburgh baseball trip for the Phillies and Pirates game. Of course, listen to the Sports Bash and Game Night each day for your opportunity to win your spot on the trip to Pittsburgh.
Here's what you missed on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
I don't know that it's a huge gap, because if you go back and you look at last year, the Dallas Cowboys actually split with the Eagles. So I don't think Philly is head and shoulders above everybody else to the point where they're going to run shop on the division the way they did last year, but I still think they come out of the division.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
No matter the make, no matter the mileage, no matter what you owe, Matt Blatt Kia wants your vehicle today. We need to replenish our inventory, so we need your vehicle, no matter what your situation is. Even if you're stuck in a loan or a lease, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released. Get cash for your car today. Even if you don't buy a car from us and don't pay high interest rates, get to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home a brand new Kia with super low APR financing and 0 down payment on every new Kia in stock. Plus, with Matt Blatt Kia's certified lenders, we finance your future, not your past. Even first-time buyers can drive with peace of mind with our exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy. So bring any trade during Kia's summer sales event.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkia.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 7/5/23. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Hey, you know what I don't get? Why is that company always telling you to just do what? What is it? To just look like everybody else? Or maybe just pay way too much for your shoes? Well, at Skechers, we know what we want you to do. Just slip in. That's right, just slip in to new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Why? Because slip-ins are the easiest, most comfortable shoes ever. You don't have to bend down to put them on. You don't even have to touch them. Find slip-ins for the whole family at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right, you don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait, text PLACE to 200-300.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
With GMF financing to qualify buyers excludes Corvette. Everybody knows there's no beating Bennett because we sell new Chevys at true GM supplier employee prices. Unlike the other guys, Bennett doesn't sell at MSRP, and they certainly never sell over MSRP. Because at Bennett, we take pride being known as the only area dealer to sell at the true GM supplier employee price. Plus, Bennett also gives you all the rebates. Not one or the other. Bennett gives you both. There's no beating Bennett. Plus, Bennett's got financing as low as 1.9%. Looking for used? Bennett pays a minimum $8,000 for any trade towards any pre-owned in stock. I know you're thinking Bennett will never give me $8,000 for my old clunker. Try us. Bennett doesn't care if it's all dented and rusty. We don't even care if it runs. Just get it here for at least $8,000. A lot more if it's in nice shape. And Bennett's non-commissioned sales team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
WORK Work News Radio. Next up, incidents of pressing all the elevator buttons unexpectedly spike on Bring Your Kid to Work Day. But first, the latest on a team lunch that wasn't ordered through Easy Cater.
I'm in the break room where lunch that was previously announced on the way has now been downgraded to hopefully soon.
Fingers crossed, Michelle. Fingers crossed.
Newsflash, it's hard when the food is late, but at EasyCater, we make hard easy. With food for work delivered on time and is ordered from over 100,000 restaurants. Order 24/7 at EasyCater.com.
Phillies Sports Trips is your #1 location for all trips for Philadelphia sports, offering premium travel and tailgating experiences. Visit them at PhillySportsTrips.com. That's PhillySportsTrips.com to book your trip today.
And the free mobile app.
Wrapping up the hour, don't forget, coming up in about 3 minutes from now, the final sounder will go off for the Phillies trip to Pittsburgh. Yes, you and a friend can go to watch the Phillies play the Pirates in Pittsburgh next month, all thanks to Phillies Sports Trips and the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. Before we get out of here, a couple of things I want to hit on before we wrap up the hour. First of all, there was a follow-up from Steven Ventnor chiming in on the text board. He says that he likes the idea of getting Goldschmidt because it's 1.5 years of a premium right-handed bat and another high-octane right-handed pitcher to complement Alvarado and Soto in the pen. Listen, I don't dislike the idea of getting Goldschmidt and Hicks, but I don't see a scenario where that's enough of a trade of assets to get those two guys. Look, if the Cardinals agreed to that deal, I'd say yes in a heartbeat. I just don't think that's enough. I think you got to, if you took out Morales and put in Crawford, let's say, I think that's a more likely scenario. The Cardinals are going to want some premium prospects if they're going to trade. This is a Cardinals organization that has not been sellers at the deadline very often in the last, 30 years, basically. I mean, let me look at the Cardinals' baseball history. And when was the last time they even had a losing record? Let me see here. I'm going year by year. I haven't seen a losing record yet. I mean, I'm already to 2009. No. Okay, last time they had a losing record was 2007. Before 2007, the last time they had a losing record was 1999. So we're talking about 2 times in the last 25 years. This team has had a losing record. And I'm supposed to believe that all of a sudden they're just going to give away Goldschmidt? What? I mean, I'm looking through their baseball reference guide for 2007. I mean, they made almost no moves at the deadline, and they had a losing record that year. They traded away Chris Lambert, Sean Danielson. I mean, they traded they got rid of nobody in 2007. They had a losing record. I'm supposed to believe. Oh, here you go. They made a deal with the Phillies in 2007. They traded a draft pick for Russell Branyan. Yeah. That's what the Cardinals did in 2000. I mean, I'm supposed to believe the Cardinals are just going to up and give up on Paul Goldschmidt when they're in history of their franchise for the last 25 years, is they don't trade almost anybody ever to deadline and sell. Good grief. I appreciate the effort by some of you guys. I love when you guys text in, but that was not good. Frankly, you could be going to see the Phillies play the Pirates, and that weekend the Phillies will make a trade because that is the weekend before the trade deadline. You could be with the Phillies in Pittsburgh to see the Pirates play the Phillies at PNC Park. You got to call 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. Callers 6 and 7, you are qualifiers for the Phillies trip. Of course, as a qualifier, you must be present at Yuri's in Wildwood during the Sports Bash broadcast on Friday, July 14th. Today, this is your final chance today. 5 more chances tomorrow for you to qualify. Call 609-573-3776 to qualify for the Phillies trip contest. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll catch you tomorrow.
Health update with Rob.